This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Regen auf mein Kopf. Hinter der Deckelbus ist die kleine Fahrt im Top. Geht mir kein Sach mit, die Rock.
Hey everyone, welcome to Kill Me Now with Judy Gold. I'm your host, Judy Gold. And this week we have part 2 of my interview with Mayan Lopez, who's adorable. It is also Chanukah, Chanukah, come light the menorah, let's have a party. So I want to wish everyone a happy Hanukkah. This is our last episode of the year because we take the holidays off. But there's so many episodes you can listen to. I've been doing this since 2015. And there's some amazing people. Dick Cavett. Oh, Roberta Kaplan. I love her. She was the lawyer who argued the defense of the marriage equality case in front of the Supreme Court. Oh my God. I'm gonna go through the list and start telling you what to listen to. But you know, if you're with family or driving to be with family and you're stuck in traffic, what's more entertaining than hearing my annoying voice? Also wanted to let you know that I was in Florida last week. I did the Chosen Comedy Festival in Miami. And then I was at the Boca Black Box in Boca. It was quite the show for the Chosen Festival in Miami because a lot of right-wing Jews, and I did a joke. I was doing a joke about Jews and guns, which is basically a Jewish joke. But the minute I said guns, they all started booing at me because they all have guns. They didn't even listen to the joke. They just heard a word that triggered them, and they turned on me. And I, of course, had to yell at them, but it's just really, really upsetting. You know, that people can't listen. They just react. And it's getting worse and worse. Boca, by the way, Boca Black Box, great audience. I went from conservative Jews to liberal Jews and non-Jews at the Boca Black Box, and I had the best time. So it's good to have one show where you kind of want to kill some of the people in the audience, and then the next night you have the greatest audience in the entire world. So that was fun. But so I had that experience. And then I come home, and Saturday I'm at the Village Underground, which is part of the Comedy Cellar. And I am doing some crowd work with this cute couple in the front row. And they're from North Carolina. So I start asking them, if they had, since they're white and from North Carolina, I start asking them if they had at their wedding, because they were young, if there were any gay people at their wedding. And he was like, no. And then she was like, oh, yes, one, Caitlin. So I said, okay, so you had one gay. And then I asked if there were any black people at the wedding. And then I asked if there were any Jewish people at the wedding. And it was a really funny interaction, which I'll probably be posting on Instagram. And then the audience loved it. It was so fun. And they're sitting in the front row. And then I get this. Are you ready? This is what I get. I get this message. Oh, God. I'm not good at shut up with my computer. I'm not good with the, here's the messages. Okay. Here it is. Okay, this is what I get. I might post this. Thanks for teeing off on us tonight. My wife is in tears. Was really hoping to hear your stand-up instead of assuming we're hicks and going in on us. Okay. They're sitting in the front row at a comedy club. Okay. Then he says, for the record, Caitlin, which was the one gay friend who I said, oh, so you have a lesbian friend or a gay friend, whatever. For the record, Caitlin is a trans woman, but congratulations for assuming she was a lesbian. So I wrote, if you take yourselves that seriously, you should probably not go to a comedy club, let alone sit in the front row. Happy holidays. I mean, really, people? What is going on? What is going on? It's getting really annoying. Okay? So I just wanted to tell you that. Also, if you want to hear some of my wonderful stand-up, if you're in New York and it is Christmas and you want to go laugh, I have 2 shows at Stand Up New York on Christmas Day, 4 o'clock and 7 o'clock. Yes, I said 4 o'clock. You know why? Because I figured some people want to get the fuck away from their families. And I don't want to work that late. But so 4 o'clock and 7 o'clock at Stand Up New York in the Upper West Side. And if you follow me on any of the socials at Judy Gold, JEWDYGOLD, I'm going to go on another social media thing because I really can't stand Elon Musk. But anyway, if you cannot afford the ticket or you're alone or anything, just DM me and I will get you taken care of. Okay, because I don't want anyone to be like depressed and lonely on Christmas, even though it's all made up bullshit that you're supposed to be happy. Okay, so that's that. So I'll be at Stand Up New York on the 25th, and then I'm going to be in Pennsylvania, in Sellersville, Pennsylvania, January 21st, and at the Comedy Loft in DC on January 26th through the 28th. So get your asses to my shows. And yeah, that's it. And keep that sense of humor. I want to wish everyone happy holidays. I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever other holidays there are. Happy New Year. And I hope you have enjoyed listening to my podcast this year. And sit back now and relax and enjoy part 2 of my interview with Mayan Lopez. So was it 2005 that your father got ill?
Yes. Well, my dad has always been born with kidney disease. So he was born with I think polycystic kidney disease. And so his ureter was like it should be like a funnel. His was like a wine cup. So it would just go into his kidney. And I think at one point, so he didn't know he was performing, doing a show, and he was always jumping around and running, and he landed wrong after doing a jump and he tore his Achilles. And so he got surgery, did things for that, but it wasn't healing. It was still black and blue. So then he went to the doctor. They were like, we'll check your creatinine levels. And then that's how they found it. And so there was one point in the show that I think my dad had less than 25% kidney function. I think it was almost like 20% kidney function. Yeah. And they didn't let anyone know. I mean, I didn't even know until a week before the operation. And even they didn't know until like a month, because it's a beautiful story, because now with kidney donation or even organ donation, you don't have to be the same blood type. There's different things. But back then it was a 1 in like 3 million chance that a married couple are going to be 100% match. And my mom said she felt like a light go through her, and she just said, I'll give you mine. And they were 100% match.
That's crazy.
Everything. And my mom also has super kidneys. It only occurs in 10% of the population.
No way.
So she has 2 arteries. So not only my dad got the Rolls Royce of kidneys. So he got a super kidney from my mom. And it was, even I remember my mom tells me that when they had the show, tell Bruce Helford, who's the executive producer on our show, about it, his eyes went white. He freaked out, and the writers freaked out. They're like, we have to write George out of one scene. And the writers freaked out. No. They freaked out. And one scene, that's how much my dad was in the show. One scene, they were freaking out. But it went wonderfully. I don't think my parents made a little book, like a little figure book of, of the surgeon has this in daddy's room. And then he says, hey, catch to the kidney, and he catches the kidney. And And I don't think I truly understood because they were so calm throughout the whole thing. Like everyone, I didn't realize that both my parents
you were 9, right?
surgery. Yeah, I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because my dad, the recipient of the kidney always recovers faster than the donor. And so my dad I had to be around mass with him, but he was up and around, and my mom was in the hospital longer. And so I would go there and I would like brush her hair and bring blankets. And it was, and
I want a daughter.
And there's a beautiful picture of my mom in the bed and my dad and me and my little like Lawrence. I went to Lawrence school in Los Angeles, and I have my little like uniform, and we're all holding hands, and it's a picture that I really love to look at because, you know, my dad, and people will say this all the time still, like, he stole her kidney. Yeah. She should get it back. And I'm like, it was a gift.
Who's going to give a kidney?
Say this all the time.
They're such assholes. I hate people.
Like, then that's one thing that pisses me off is people saying that. And it's like, she gave you back the world. She also that was the father of her child.
And she wanted to do it.
And she wanted to do it.
And it's none of your fucking business.
I have to have it like where it's like where the app that I'm using will look at those words and try to hide those comments because it's just constant.
And it's constant. People are just assholes.
Like, he got canceled kind of before what cancel culture is today.
Right.
So he's kind of had another extra 10 years to semi recover. Right. I think he's still always be beloved, but you know, it's not like now, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
If it were to happen today.
How do you think that seeing your parents ill or in that situation sort of affected you? I mean, you're so mature and articulate. You had to grow up quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then your father is getting all this bad press.
Yeah.
Just drinking, driving, passing out drunk.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely in crisis. Did your mother shield you from what the hell was going on?
Yeah, I didn't. And I didn't even know about any problems in their marriage until that day. Because I think they were coming back from some event at the Kennedy Center, and they'd known, like, everything was just so stupid but he really didn't think he was going to be caught. Like, he was texting these hookers, whatever you want to call them, like on his business BlackBerry. And and so it could all be traced back to that. And he's like, I didn't think I was going to be caught. And they went, and the publicist was like, they were on a flying private back. And my dad sat with my mom the whole time. My mom was like, is this true? Because the publicist is saying that it was going to be in the National Enquirer. Like, it's coming out. They have all these, like, it's happening. And she sat there that entire flight. And he said, no, it's not true. Then they landed, and he was like, it's true. And she was just like, and I remember that day so clearly. But also, I'll get to that. But I remember the energy was so different. I went to school, then I came back, and my therapist was there on one couch, and it was my
in
mom
your
and
house?
my dad in my house. And then my mom was upstairs, like crying, like doing like all day on the phone all day. So, you know, I went, did my homework, you know, made myself like I did that whole kind of thing. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to finally find out what it is. And my mom and my dad sat on the couch, and they were explaining to me that there's this article coming out, like that your parents, your mother and I are going to be separated. And I remember this is the only a couple of few times in my life that I hate that anyone's had to do this, but I blacked out. Like, I just blacked out from anger. And my mom was like, tell her why, George, tell her why. And for so many years, I thought I called him every name in the book. I don't remember. I was like screaming. I was calling him I thought I was so articulate with what I was saying. And until a couple of years ago, I was like, Mom, do you remember when I like told Dad off? And she was like, no, you didn't. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, no, you were screaming bloody murder. Like, you were screaming. Wow. Like, and then I left the room, and my mom left. And then my dad looks over at my therapist and goes, why is she upset? And,
oh my God.
And my therapist was just like, George, her entire world just came out from under her, because I didn't know, like, And my dad was like, you knew, your mother and I haven't slept in the same room for 7 years. I'm like, I thought it was because mom snored. I'm a good, I'm a good girl. I believe what my parents tell me. And he was like, no. Right. And then that became the whole cycle of me being in the middle. And, there were times that my parents like would try to use me to get information from one or the other. And so I created like trust issues with both parents. And then I had to rebuild trust and gain trust back. And no, it's like it's all triangulation. Like I've been to therapy schools, and with a therapist, I had an assignment where they did a trauma timeline. Yeah. And then and this is partly, it's in an episode of Lopez versus Lopez, because I told our showrunner Debbie about this, and that they were like, okay, we want you to write a list of every traumatic event that you could remember. And my therapist made me stop at 9 pages front and back.
No way. No fucking way.
She was like, okay.
God, you have a good memory.
That's enough.
It's interesting that you don't put them in a corner in your brain, and you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, there are a lot of them are, because I've done trauma therapy, I've done EMDR therapy, which is like electro, where if for folks who don't know, it's a form of trauma therapy that you kind of go into meditative, and it can be sometimes vibrations that can help you, and you pick one memory and you try to go into that the emotion that you feel to that memory is 0, and you can kind of go different areas. And I remember I tried to pick this one therapy session that I had with my dad, and I remembered that I never really trusted my dad. There was one time that when I was like, I didn't even remember this, so I was like 3 years old, and I remember I had to get my shoes tied, and I would just sit there. And my mom would be like, go ask your dad. Like, I'm doing something. I would sit there for 20 minutes with my shoes untied, like not wanting to ask my dad.
Wow.
Because his energy is very intense. A lot of people meet my dad, and like, he is a good man. Even and I don't want, we're in a better place now. I think I've kind of had to reach a lot of acceptance, but I love my father for all that he is. And I can see the human that he is, and he is a good person.
Right.
He's even told me, he's like, and I was like, I see you, Dad. I do. Yeah. Like, I do see you. And he's like, I'm a good person. I've just made really horrible,
stupid mistakes.
Really stupid mistakes.
They tell you this, and you're blindsided. My son Henry was blindsided too, and he definitely has had a lot of issues. And so,
in high school. So that going into high school and that. So at that time, it was like a high school movie where you walk in and everyone stares at you.
Right.
Like, everyone stops talking. Like, that was what happened to me, because it was trending everywhere.
I know.
Everywhere. And so it was just, I still can remember it. And I would still, sometimes when I visit my high school, if I go near that hall, I can remember
You can remember that, yeah.
My chest starts to close up. Like, I start to shake, like, because it was how traumatizing it was, of just people talking to you. But I had a good community at my high school. There were good things and bad things about it. It was very cliquey, and, every LA high school has their things. Right. And especially private schools. But there was a community of kids whose parents had gotten divorced, and they came up to me and they talked to me. That really
that's
helped.
Nice.
But then there was one teacher that we actually got her fired, because she came up to me and was like, is it true? Like, what happened with your dad?
Who the fuck says that?
And I was in such shock that I was so I was just, you don't rattled.
Say that to a fucking 11-year-old kid.
Yeah, I was and also I was 15, and then 3 months before
you were 15, sorry.
My grandmother had passed away, my mom's mom. And that was like my first death, and I was very close to her. And so it was just, I don't remember 2.5 years of my life at all. And I've even asked people who have seen me at that time, like, what do you remember me?
Right.
Like? And they were just like, you were so dark.
Do you see pictures of yourself then?
And I have to sometimes look at pictures, because I don't remember and hardly anything. And the brain is very interesting. It's very, very interesting. And I did get my brain scanned a couple of years ago at the Amen clinics. And I should have maybe gone, but I was very depressed at that time as well because I was going through my first breakup. And I was a late bloomer with the trauma put a stint in a lot of big life events for me. I'm just going further.
I think you had a series of life events. Before, but yeah.
Oh yeah. And positive ones. And then I remember they were going to the trauma part of the brain where it stays. And I thought it was going to be red, and it was only like slightly red. And I was like, I feel like there's more. They're like, actually with therapy and doing cognitive behavioral therapy, you've actually rewired
That's
a lot
amazing.
of your brain.
God.
And I was like, oh. I was like, so there's still stuff. So it's still there. It's still lighting.
But it's not, taking over the whole.
But it's not as taking the whole thing. And I was like, wow, that's fascinating.
This week's episode of It's Judy Show with Judy Gold is sponsored by BetterHelp. And if you know me, which I think you do because you're listening to my podcast right now, you know that I am a big advocate for therapy. I think it benefits everyone. I think there's so many people who need it, who don't partake. It is so important for your emotional health and well-being. Therapy is fantastic. It is in every stretch of the imagination. And if you're thinking of starting therapy, please do it. But please give BetterHelp a try. It is entirely online. It's designed to be convenient. It's flexible. It suits your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. I have switched therapists in my life. I've had many, many therapists, and sometimes it's not a great fit for you, but don't give up. Therapy is beneficial. You can learn about yourself. You can process and just be emotionally healthy. I'm telling you, do it. BetterHelp is great because, when I used to schlep to my therapist's office, it was so annoying. You have to do it and you sit there and you wait. And then I'm telling you, doing it online is fantastic. And BetterHelp is amazing. I know a lot of people who've used it. So if you're thinking about therapy, go to BetterHelp.com. Let the gratitude flow. This is Gratitude Month, people. So you need to let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/JudyGold, JudyGold, today, and you will get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/JudyGold. You're welcome.
So after they divorce, and it's so public, and you stop talking to your dad, you sort of
I couldn't be in the same room with him, or I couldn't look him in the eye without like crying and just, so I didn't talk to him for 3 years. And then we started to try to, have lunches, and I call him a Disneyland dad.
Right.
Like he was very much a Disneyland dad. During the divorce, he would take me to Laker games. We'd go to Disneyland, or we'd go eat at Fred Siegel.
Right.
And then he'd go and shop for me at Fred Siegel. And then we'd like just drive home. And it was just really uncomfortable and very tense, and it was just a huge elephant of like just how things were going, and he didn't know what to
he didn't really deal with. He had no father, so it's like he didn't know what to do, and plus you're female, so it's even so in the 3 years you didn't talk, you just didn't talk at all. And did you see him?
I tried to see him sometimes. And there was actually a time where in those years that every Friday he would send me a beautiful bouquet of flowers to my mom's house with a card every Friday. But he wouldn't call me. He wouldn't text me. And at one point I had to tell him, please stop sending these flowers because I don't want these flowers. I want my father.
Right.
And this is,
God, that must have been hard.
It's painful. To every,
it's a reminder.
Like, you think it's beautiful, and you think I was like, actually, it's not. It's a reminder of every single week that my father
is not here. Yeah.
And he's not capable of doing those extra steps to try and I was like, because even sometimes my therapists are like, he abandoned you. You do realize that, right?
As his father did to him.
And I was like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, he did. And, even 2 years ago, I couldn't even look him in the eye and tell him like what I wanted from our relationship.
Right.
And, I was like, and I think that was one, we were at a Zoom session and he was like, I could see in his face, like how much that broke him. And to think that 2 years ago we were just starting and now we're on a sitcom.
It's just fucking crazy. So this went on for a long time.
It would be periods where we wouldn't talk for 8 months, and then we'd be on really good, and then we wouldn't speak for that, or I'd see him only a couple times a year. Like it was just the timeline of it. When people try to ask me, I'm like, I'm like, it was
right. It's like
if it was a graph, it'd be a jack. Yeah.
Was your mother trying to give you everything you needed, or was she angry too? And
it was a lot. Our relationship went through a lot of things because one, we became very enmeshed and we became extremely codependent with one another because we were both
you sound like Elisa, my lover, who's like, we're enmeshed. We're in, all these therapy words. It's so fucking hilarious. Yeah.
People, like I've been on another podcast. She's like, you are so therapized. I'm like, I am. When people ask me, God, where have you been all this time? I'm like, I've been studying comedy and I've been in therapy. Like that's like, and now I'm here. Now I'm coming out, baby.
Yeah.
I'm out of the clink. That's what I like to call. I'm out of the clink. So now we became very enmeshed, and then I became almost like a friend to her, and she would tell me things that you probably shouldn't have told.
No boundaries. Yeah.
And because it was just like we were just suffering together, and then I tried to become, and then I became her whole life, and then it was very hard to find boundaries. But then she was the only parent that I had, and really growing up she was really mom and dad, and so that became even more fold where I didn't sometimes want to go up to my mom because I didn't know if I was going to get my head bit off or if I was going to get the loving mother. Like it was but I don't blame her for it. She did
the best she could.
The best she could, and I'm still came out all right. It's their parents' mistake, but it's my responsibility to get my shit together. And I'm still working on it.
You're such a good girl. You're such a good girl. I remember seeing your mother. We were at like a Golden Globes party, and it was right after it happened. And she's like, "Yeah, I gave him my kidney," like, and everyone, and we were all laughing. But it was so like just the story itself was so fucking crazy that we were all just because that's all. It's all you can do. It's a coping mechanism. So, so you're having this.
We were making jokes. Yeah, like we were making jokes.
You have to.
You have to. Even still now, like with the show, they're like, "Isn't it so great that you're gonna be with your dad every day?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're both getting paid to be there."
Yeah, right.
Like, I'll like have my little quips that I'll just be like, and they'll be like, "Ah," and I'm like,
"Yeah,
it imitates itself."
Don't think I don't know. I'm not aware. So. Then the pandemic hit. So you have this horrible relationship with him, which I, thinking about it from his perspective, I don't know. I could not talk to my kid. Like I would die, like I talk to my kids all the time. I don't know. I know a lot of parents who have these horrible relationships with their kids and they don't talk to them. And I'm like, I don't comprehend that. And then the pandemic hits and he is immunocompromised. So you and your mother, is this true that you and your mother were like, oh, we gotta sort of.
Yeah, I want to protect him. Like I wanted to, because my dad is extremely, extremely introverted.
Right.
Like he does have like friends and he's very gregarious and wonderful when you go on the road and you see him and he's wonderful with fans and that is him. Yeah. But when with him, he still like he likes to play his guitar. He doesn't know how to play the guitar, but he'll just strum and he watches. I introduced him to YouTube and now that's all he watches. Right. Like he'll watch like Live Aid or, old concerts from like Aerosmith and he'll just, watch documentaries and he'll just stay up there and he just likes to be by himself. And so, my mom and I were like, we went to the grocery store for him and we would make meals for him. And
who reached out? Like, and also, was it hard for you to see him with fans being Mr. Friendly and knowing, like, that's, I always wonder.
And it was also very hard too when there were times when we weren't speaking or we didn't have the best relationship. Like I would go and see him and people would come up to me and be like, oh my God, Mayan, your dad tells me he doesn't stop about you. He loves you so much. He's so proud of you. He tells us all these things about you. And at the same time, I have to put a smile on my face and be like, oh, isn't he? Yes, he's wonderful. Isn't he? Yes. Oh, I love him so. Yeah. I was like, oh, by the way, do you have any of this recorded? Because I'd like to hear it, like.
Yeah, right.
And he's like, oh yeah, he's so proud of you for going to Second City and you're, performing and you're writing and, oh, he's just so proud of you. And
you're just,
I was like, did you? Absolutely. Yeah.
Wait, did you start in Second City when you were at Columbia College, or did you
went to Second
do it
City
after?
Camp when it was open in Los Angeles. Like I went as a kid because that was just, I used to get in trouble all the time in elementary school for just, because I have what my dad has. I'm very quick-witted.
Right.
And my dad, it was almost like if Eddie Van Halen's son could play the guitar, like what he does. Like he was just like, he's got it. He's got it. And he was so excited. And there was one time that I went to, this explains me from like a child. It's my favorite story, one of my favorite stories about myself. I got in trouble for saying something to a boy who would always cause drama. And I was always just the person that would say something and everyone would laugh. And my mom, I got sent to the headmaster's office and my mom picked me up. I was like, so Mayan, how was your day at school today? And I was like, fine. And she was like, well, Tyler Stevens told me, parents called and told me that you called him and this and this and this. I'm like, Mom, I can't help it. It's just, it comes in my head and it comes out. And she's like, well, Mayan, you have to like start to own the words that come out of your mouth. Like it was mean. And I went, mean, but funny. And I was maybe 7 years old.
Right.
And my mom was just like, oh my God.
I got one.
And then my dad was no help because my dad was just so proud of me.
I know, same. I was always like that too. If they said something funny, I don't care how mean it was.
I was always like, he would be like, Mayan, come over here. Tell him what you said. And everyone would laugh
right.
There was that kind of camaraderie that I had with him even when I was a little girl.
You reach out to your father, your mother and you, and did you get on TikTok at that time or were you on it before?
I wish I was on it earlier, quite frankly. I really wish I kind of went on the curve because I was like, oh, it's a little kids app. I don't understand. And it was to change names. But then when I started to realize what it was, I was like, oh, this could have been awesome for comedy and making because really TikToks are just like little blackouts. Like they're just little 3 beats and it's funny and it's hilarious. I'm like, it's really the constructs of basic like comedy blocks. Like it's oh, that's what does really well. It's like set up line, something like that. It's like,
So what you did Second City, and then when did you get on stage as a stand-up the first time?
I've never done stand-up.
Okay,
I did a stand-up. I've done a stand-up class. My dad was like, do not do stand-up. He's like, I did not sit at bars for hours for this many years for my daughter to go. And so I still might do it. I wanted to be called a stand-up comedian.
Right.
Maybe I'll just go up. I thought you had done. I thought the theaters. Yeah. Second City, and I did very well because it was nice to have a separation, not from Los Angeles. Like I could just go up there and no one would. And
Chicago's a great comedy town.
Oh, it's amazing, and and I really liked improvisation as well. It's still like my love. I love it, and but I think using stand up as a medium, I was like, I want to go there, and I have a lot of. So I get your advice. Hope maybe someday, and like with my set, I can send you a type 5 and see what you think.
Oh, please!
And,
I would love that. Mm-hmm. It's so interesting. I mean, just to do it, even if you just do it once, because you're like, oh, it's a whole different perspective. Because improv is so about yes, and not so much. Like there were so many times I took improv class and they would come up with something stupid. I was like, really? But I had to go, yes. And, so
Okay, let's go back to the pandemic.
Yeah, the pandemic. Yeah. So I graduated. So I left Second City.
And you
I finished Second City, and I went home, and I was trying to do writing jobs, and I was a punch-up writer for a show called Victor and Valentino on Cartoon Network, and I was like trying to send things out there, and I was trying to audition, but nothing was really happening. And there was that time where I wasn't really talking with my dad, and quite frankly, like I wanted to kind of show people, like I wanted to connect with people. I've always wanted my story, and I've always wanted to use now I was like, wow, of course I have the same job as my dad, because now I was
you really get
I'm
it.
like using the pain. I'm like, understandably, like I've always wanted to connect with people. I want people to know that they're not alone, make people laugh, and laugh. It's a release. I want people to release their thing. I want to make people happy.
You're so smart. I can't take it.
And so I started to go on TikTok and just kind of did these trends, but did them with the scope of my relationship with my dad. And they blew up. And then there was one that I did with my parents being over for the pandemic, the one that actually started Lopez versus Lopez. So someone made a TikTok, and it was getting like a couple million views and like over 500,000 likes about it. And it was a creator who was making one about George Lopez is sick with kidney disease. His wife gives him a kidney. What does he do? He cheats on her, gets the kidney. And I was like, I've had it. I was like, I've had enough. And it was popular. I've seen many of them. They don't get it. This one was really popular. I'm like, all right, I'm putting an end to this. And my mom didn't want me to post the TikTok. And I was like, so I thought, okay, what's going to get people's attention? And I was like, I'm a comedian. I don't know. I'll probably look awful. I'm like, I'm going to twerk upside down on a wall.
I fucking love it. Yeah.
Like, why not? It'll be hilarious. And so I was like, that's my mom. That's my dad. I'm like, that's not true. And then I went and twerked, and with text above me, I was like, no, she divorced him. She still gets hella money in alimony. Like, she's better off.
Right.
And our show,
and shut your fucking mouth. And your father didn't want you to do it.
My mom didn't want me to. And then my dad told me that he was going golfing with Anthony Anderson. And he was like, did you see Mayan's TikTok?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And he was like, yeah. And he was like, you're okay with that? He's like, yeah. Like I think as comedians, we understood each other. He's someone who can take a joke. And I think there's sometimes having jokes, and I've learned joke construction really from him, because there were sometimes naturally that's how we communicated with each other. We would have such a gritting joke that I could hit. I knew where to hit him so that he would hear me, and he would be like, and that's
it's a language.
And I would get his respect.
So funny that you understood that language, and you had language.
I didn't know what it was.
Right.
Like I didn't know what it was.
With Lululemon, the real gift happens when they're living in it. When you give them the coziest scuba matching set, the real gift is this. And this. And this. This holiday, Lululemon makes it easy to give a gift that goes beyond. Open the moment. Shop now at Lululemon.com.
You then also were doing...
Oh, my favorite series that I have is called my Why Do My Divorced Parents Still Act Like They're Married?
Oh, I love that. But wait. Yeah. Before you... Like the ones where you had his... my father was... like you had all these... articles that were in the tabloids, and you were... Oh, yeah. That was fucking amazing. One where I was like, me in 2014, telling me so happy that my dad is... has drinking under control. And then I have an article of George Lopez passed out in drunk casino. And I'm like, what? Yeah. It's just so honest. It's so brutally honest. And then you get into these, my parents who are divorced acting like they're still together.
I was like, cause it's that I put that one up, and I did have like a lot of followers, and yes, I was trying to use my dad. You use what you got, people. Anyone in my situation would do the same. And just because they can't, that's why they hate me. And I don't care.
I love you.
And so that's like, you do it too. And so I just was seeing them, and my mom was trying to pick zits on my dad's. Oh, like they were together for over 20 years. Like there's so much history with them. And I just thought it was so funny. And so I put it up, and overnight it got almost 16 million views.
It's just fucking crazy.
And it's like 10 seconds. And then I did another one, it got 8 million, and the other one got 5 million. And it actually helped sell when we were pitching the show, because we could show networks, they're like, these are the numbers. People are interested. Live. People are responding to this. Like, and people didn't even realize it was my dad. They just thought the dynamic was so funny. And my mom, and the people love my mom. Like,
your mother is so, but it's so funny because you're so honest in these, your mother is still obviously loves your father and adores him so much. And he is so, get away from me. I don't want, and it's such a defense mechanism. I mean, you can totally see that he's like, yeah, whatever. But if she acts like he doesn't like her singing or whatever.
Yeah.
And he'd be nothing and he knows he'd be nothing without her. And the fact that you you pinpoint that, come on, people, you're so attached.
Mm-hmm.
And that they're going to be in each other's lives forever because of you.
Yeah, I haven't had that argument with my dad because my mom is acting as my assistant right now.
Right, and she comes to the...
and so she's my mom assist, and she won't let me pay her. I'm like, Kylie pays Chris, and she's like, I am not taking your money. Absolutely not. And so, she's not there very often. Like, she'll be there if I need to get dropped off something. Like, she's helping me. And then my dad was just like, I divorced her. I don't want to have to see her around, or I could hear. And I'm like, Dad, I was like, you hardly will see her. Like, you will
and
not.
Also,
and you know what? I'm saying this because he had an article saying how George Lopez really feels about his wife being on set. And I was like, do I have to get on a wall again? Do we have to do this again?
Right.
And also, what do I have to do now? And I was like, there's no divorce when there's a child involved. And I think he hates to be reminded that I am not only his child, and that I did not come from symbiosis. I did not just grow
just up here. Yeah,
there had to be the naked tango to get me where I am, the old Tootsie Lou, to get me over here. And I was like, well, if you need to see me as someone who just needs their mom on set, then go ahead. And he's like, okay, fine. And then he apologized later because he was being a dick. But
he knows he's a dick. Yeah. I've watched a lot of interviews, and I look at the way I'm a parent. So I see the way he looks at you, and it's just pure.
No, I know he loves me. I know he loves me more than anything in this world. And I do feel it. He just can only love me the way that he can. And I think that's my biggest advice for people is just that's because through therapy, I've set expectations of what a good interaction with my dad is. If we have more than, and I've gone through the mourning, and everyone will have their own processes, but I've set myself up for internal success, because if I have a 10-minute phone call with my dad, I'm like, oh, it's usually 5. That was great.
Right.
And, yes, we were on set, and he's very lovey, and he'll hug me. And then, I was like, we had a really good time on set. Maybe he won't say goodbye to me, but hey, I'll take that. That's a great day. And I'll set that up.
I mean, first of all, this is the first TV show that came out of TikTok, right?
Yeah.
That is, and it's a network, and it's doing great, and it's great. It's really well written, and the characters are so rich. I mean, is there a power struggle? Is it also do you want to say, Dad, if I didn't fucking do that TikTok, you'd be...
There were times. Yeah. There was that. And it was really, I'm so proud of myself. And I can say that now because there were times where I just wanted to end. I've lost almost 30 pounds. And the majority of it has just been stress. It was... Right. I've been performing, and the live audience component was because for people who don't know, it's a 3-camera live audience.
It's a sitcom. Yeah. Classic. Yeah.
And the classic, chef's kiss.
My fave.
Of the genre. But I was still trying to learn the acting, and also my character, Mayan, and I realize now that she's very different than I am. But at the beginning, I was like, oh, I've been to therapy. I have a master's class and my parents divorced. Like I have a master's degree. I was like, oh, I'll help you out. But as I started to do it, I realized that she's actually more direct with my dad than I am, and maybe takes her therapy. Like I'm like, and then I started.
That's so
like,
great.
Am I the problem? And sometimes I'm like, God, am I intense? Because sometimes the line producer will come over to me and I'll just be like, Mayan, you read that very angry. And I'll just be like, I looked at him and that's what came out. Like I was like, so I had to, figure out the
Must
dialogue.
be really,
it gets really personal. And there's some moments that I look at him and I'm really just speaking to him. And there's a real father and daughter that are talking on stage. And it was my dad was helpful to me, like more than helpful, like helping me with, what to do and like good things to start a scene. Don't be always like angry. It's like everything has to be light in a sitcom. Right. Even anger, everything has to have there's no heaviness unless it's like unless it's written there. For that. But like everything else has to be light. And it was a learning experience. I learned as I've been going because I'm a producer on the show as well.
So great. I'm so proud of you.
So it's really like been, I feel like everything good and bad. And it's like me to my point in this life.
It's just, you go back to when we were talking about growing up on the set and seeing, and your mother saying, don't talk about this in your stand-up. And then you recreating this entire scenario in the writing, when you're writing and you're doing your storylines and you're, it's got to be therapeutic in a way where, I could say that to him as my character. I can't say that to him as his daughter.
But I was able to see it. And I can see also times my relationship from a third eye perspective.
Yes.
And
which is so helpful.
And it was very helpful. And it's, there's been some times where I've had to mourn and be like, I thought this was going to make my relationship. I think there was a small part of me that thought, my relationship is going to be completely different with my dad after this. And that was kind of the part that I had to kind of tell the inner child, like,
no,
the last part, I had to kind of tell her, like, I'm sorry, like, he loves you, but this is like, it may get a little better, but this is kind of how it's going to be. Yeah. And I still have working to have a great relationship with my dad. We're very good now.
On so many levels, the Latinx representation and the Latinx representation with therapy, I think is so important. These honest relationships, this sort of, I have Latinx friends.
It's like the generational.
And that who a man is in that generation versus your boyfriend versus, and just processing things. And I just think you're doing I think representation is everything. I think you're just doing such good work, and and you're adorable. You're so fucking adorable. I can't take it.
Thank you.
I keep getting warnings that we have to stop, even though I could talk to you forever.
I know,
but
we'll have to have conversations.
I want to see you when I come to LA. Can we go out with your mom? Your mom's assistant? Yeah.
Yeah, my mom assists.
I always ask, well, we already talked about therapy, so we're not dealing with that. I always ask my podcast guests what pisses them off. That's why it's called Kill Me Now, as we mentioned. What pisses them off more than anything in the entire world. So, Mayan, what fucking makes you crazy mad?
Honestly, as recently now, just fake people. I have no capacity for people who do not because even now with my success, like I had friends in high school, and now with the show coming with success, like I was very bullied in high school.
Same.
And they completely just, or they make excuses for they just live in their own, they have people who have no sense of reality at all. And they came up to me and they're like, oh, Mayan, we've been seeing your success. And, we always knew how successful you were going to be. And, we've always thought about you. I'm like, it's been 7 years. And you could have, if you really loved me and you cared about me, you could have sent me a text or something. Right. And even recently, someone invited me to a reunion for our school for my class. And I'm like, fuck no.
Yeah,
Like,
I have never gone. Same.
I was like, you guys don't deserve me. You guys all know my success. I've been on Billboard. Like,
go fuck yourself.
Where I was like, no, like, absolutely.
You don't get me. Yeah.
Not. And even just now I'm starting to see with therapy, I love being so direct and I hate when I have to not be anymore.
Right.
But like, and it's very hard for me to kind of sugarcoat things. And I, even with my mom, I'm like, why? She's like, cause it's me, Mayan. Like,
right.
But I was like, it's not me. Now with therapy, I have more of a vocabulary. I'm like, no, I'm just being like opening a line of direct communication. Like, no, you're calling that person out. Like, that's not, it is.
I like
giving
it.
them feedback.
Yes. More power to you.
I hate having to dim my light for people.
Right.
And that's, I think just people not accepting people for as they are. And
yeah, I hear you.
Especially now, I just think and also just the world today just really pisses me off.
Oh,
like everything.
My God.
Like
I never knew I could be this angry. Like, that's the part of it.
I was trying to think of things to bring up, and I was like, I think I've just been pissed off for 3 years. Like, I think I've just been angry. And I could read the craziest headline now and I wouldn't blink. And I would just be like, yes, let me look at some videos and just be like, yeah, I'm absolutely, of course that happened.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's every day you wake up and you're like, I can't. Mayan, you are the cutest. I love you. I love you. I love your parents, and I wish you all the success. You are such a role model, and I just thank you. I can't thank you enough for doing this. You're just
really, truly thank you for having me. It was my mom was like, this is a sign. This is like a Judy, like what I was like, and now I'm like, I feel like I got a seal of approval. So I feel very grateful.
You're the best. We have to work together at some point.
Yes,
you're just
please.
The cutest. Thank you so much. Send my love to them, please.
I will.
Thank you so much for listening to part 2 of Kill Me Now with Mayan Lopez. Kill Me Now is produced by Laura Vogel, edited by Colin Schmaling. Everything else, marketing, scheduling, just everything else is done by Brittany Jo Sowards Richmond, who is my assistant, my wonderful assistant. So there you go. If you haven't subscribed to the show or left a review, fuck you. I really seriously fuck you. I need the 5 stars. I need you to subscribe, because then I can make enough money to keep the podcast going, which I know I keep threatening, but it's getting closer, people, because you don't subscribe and you don't leave a review. Also, I know it's the holidays. You can buy my book as a wonderful present. Yes, I can say that. When they come for the comedians, we're all in trouble, which I will be announcing right now will be turning into a one-person show. There will be a one-person show based on the book, opening in New York in March at 59 East 59th Street Theater. You heard it first, ladies and gentlemen, and they thems. Okay. Buy my book as a gift. It's a great gift. It's a great read. Buy the Audible book. It's a great listen. Also, come see me perform on Christmas Day at Stand Up New York in New York City. 2 shows. 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. January 21st, Sellersville Theater in Sellersville, Pennsylvania, and January 26th through the 28th at the Comedy Loft of D.C. and Washington, D.C., ladies, gentlemen, and they, them. So, I want you all, first of all, I want to say thank you for a great year, and thank you for listening and, being supportive of my addiction to interviewing people and telling people stories. I love that. Okay. That's number 1. And number 2, happy holidays. All of the fucking holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Happy New Year, all of them. I hope next year's better than it was. Yeah, it's been pretty shitty the past few years. But we're, look, I'm hopeful. No, I'm not, but I'm acting like I am. So enjoy. Don't worry about like gaining weight or your New Year's resolutions. Just fucking enjoy. Let go, let God. I don't even know what that means. Well, that means letting go and letting God do, but I don't know if I believe in God. We don't have to get into that. We don't have to get into that right now. All we have to do is enjoy the rest of the year. Oh, yes. I also would like you to know, I want to thank everyone who listens until the end. Oh God, people were being really nice to me and sending me stuff after my show in the Miami, where they turned on me with the guns, but then people wrote to me. People wrote to me that they loved me, so I don't care. Okay, so the woman I mentioned last week, Claudia, her last name is Tillis. So thank you for listening to the end. Marshall and his partner David, I want to say thank you. You both listened to the end. Thank you to everyone who listens to the end, and thank you for everyone who listens to part of it. I just really appreciate it because this is a labor of love, and I love you. And I wish you all nothing but wonderful, great things. It's a new year, and let's make it a good one. Okay? Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you all. Thank you for listening. And as we always say, so long.